Hello, hello, hello. It's Typhon here. And today we have a good news to talk about. So, Stop Killing Games was an initiative that it was looking into games that were being killed. It's a consumer rights movement focused on preventing video games publishers from permanently destroying games that people already have bought for. Lately, the consumers' right about the big companies have not been good. And it all began because of The Crew, which was also a game that I bought back then and I cannot play it now. I'm glad to see that there are people online that have been able to replicate The Crew and been able to make it online. So that's very good. I'm very proud of you. You did a great job there. And Stop Killing Games initiative, it's all about the consumer's right and about trying to push for international legal protections. Because when the publishers decide to try to shut down those servers, the games are destroyed completely. And I don't think that's a very good solution. We have Ubisoft to look for, and for example, I can give you an example of other games like Concord. That game is awful, but like I wanted to play that game again just to see if it was that bad or that boring, but I can't now. And Sony has been shutting down everyone that tries to replicate it. Another example is, for example, Highguard. Highguard, I didn't try it. It's not a good game. Gotta be honest. Anthem is another one, for example, because I wanted to try Anthem and I did play it a little bit, but I didn't record it. So, yeah. And I also bought it, but now I'm unable to play it even if I bought it, and that's not good for me. And it all comes down to this man over here. This man, he did a great job. So we are going to see the video in a little bit, but I still wanna take you into this channel, which is his official channel, and he has been doing a lot of work. And we can always thank for Pirate Games. Thank you, Pirate Games. You are amazing. Thank you for being so controversial, destroying your whole career, and giving a shot to do this. Because back then, I also did sign the parliament so this would get approved. I was one of those persons because I thought it was worth it. Because in the end of the day, if I bought the product, I should keep the product. I don't care. I bought the Crew, now I cannot play the Crew. I bought Anthem, I cannot play Anthem. I wanna try again Concord, I cannot play Concord. I wanna try Highguard because I didn't play it because I didn't have time because of the videos. I wanna try it. I know it's going to be boring, not awful, but boring, but I still wanna try it. So let's see this video.
I am the founder of the Stop Killing Games consumer movement, which has many shared goals with the initiative. I'd like to clarify what it means to destroy a video game. The second slide. When we say a game has been destroyed, what we mean is a publisher has permanently disabled all copies of it that have been sold so no one can ever play them again.
Yeah.
It would be like removing every single copy of a book or film in existence, effectively erasing it from the culture. The way this practice works is first a publisher sells a copy of a video game. However, it has been designed so that it must connect to the publisher in order to function. This acts as a potential kill switch.
Yeah.
The customer is also given no information.
The publisher keeps all customer money from sales, but the product is no longer available. Imagine that you bought a product and you cannot use the product. Imagine like 10 years from now, you have a car, an electric car, and it has a software, but like renew it and they make a new car with a new software and stuff like that, and they just shut down the old software and you cannot use it. Oh, but there was a thing written there, but I bought the car, so I cannot use it. Why? Because the software is not there. I have to be honest. I think that one of the things that Ubisoft said is that there needs to be a consumer shift where video game players rent or subscribe to games instead of owning them. Okay, that's gross to say the least. Make some sort of way or shape or form for us to play the Crew. Of course, there have been people online that already made a mode or a game that you can now play the Crew. They have surpassed that, and I'm very proud of them. Very good job. Well done. On other questions, this is Future Typhon here. I guess we are heading in the right direction now because this just happened like yesterday. They put an update for the offline mode of the Crew 2. Lol. Let's continue.
When the game will stop working. even though the publisher has decided to assume that responsibility. Then, after an undisclosed length of time, the publisher disables all existing copies of the game, but keeps the customer's money.
That's
The publisher
scummy.
also
That's
enacts
very
countermeasures
scummy.
to ensure repairing the game. Sorry. To ensure repairing the game is almost impossible, even for experienced software professionals. From this point onward, no customer can ever run the purchase again.
I have games locked away, CDs that I have like 20 years old or more. I can still play them today if I have a disc driver, or if I have a Game Boy Advance with me. I can still play both of those games. I have physical copies, it's mine. Bought the product, it's done. Don't need an internet connection, don't need nobody shutting down the game. Because I bought the game, it's mine, done.
Besides destroying the game, this practice is also subverting customer expectations. Most video games can work indefinitely, which has been the customer standard for half a century.
Oh my god! He told exactly what I wanted to tell, but better. Okay, I like this. Okay, carry on, sorry.
Including ones that connect to the internet. Alternately, a small number of video games operate as subscription services, but those inform the customer exactly when their access ends at the time of payment.
Okay.
The games we're referring to do no such thing. It's a bit of miscommunication. They almost always contain terms stating they can end at any time for any reason.
I don't agree with this. Anytime, for any reason. That's what happened with Anthem, I believe. It's like we don't have the people, so we are just going to shut it down. They could at least given them to the community, and the community would solve the problems or the issues. Or they even would do a couple of patches or peer-to-peer connection or something like that. I don't believe that they should have shut down Anthem, but okay.
What this means is customers have no real protections when they buy games like these. They are unable to keep them, and they are not informed when they will end. This behavior would be outrageous in other industries. If you bought a book in a store, the publisher cannot come into your home and take back your book at will.
That's a very good comparison. God damn.
If you bought an insurance policy, you would be informed when that policy ends. Not that the seller could end it at any time for any reason, but still keep your money.
Yeah.
The games being sold this way are operating similar to scams. Publishers know customers expect video games to last, so they sell these in the same way as ones that can work forever, as a one-time purchase with no expiry date, then price them the same. Publishers know that if customers were informed exactly when they plan to disable their games, that would reduce sales, since the longevity of a game affects how much customers are willing to pay.
Exactly. That's the thing that I think about, for example, Marathon. Right now, Marathon does not have many players, so I don't think, I'm trying to think, they will probably survive for a long time, hopefully. I hope for that, okay? But like, you look at Left 4 Dead 2, that game is more alive than Marathon right now. And when I draw the comparison between those two, I'm like, okay, Left 4 Dead 2 is still alive and kicking, and it has a very large community and stuff like that, people that still play it. Even if there wasn't there anyone, the game will still be available. Okay, but like, Marathon is a live service game. What does it stop from PlayStation or Sony just like, we don't have enough sales, we are going to shut it down because it's not producing any money, it's only making us lose more money, so why not shut it down? A year from now, or 2 years, or maybe more years ahead. I hope that Marathon doesn't shut down. That's where I draw the comparison. Left 4 Dead is still alive and kicking, okay. But like, Marathon does not have the whole player base or things like that. So what does it stop them from shutting down and you just losing your money if you bought it for $50 or $40? That's the issue that I have with it.
The industry is trying to have it both ways, finding ways to say they're selling you a game that they're not selling you. This creates confusion for everyone involved and is part of why it is taking customers so long to get exposure on this practice. The legality is also unsettled. Earlier, members of Parliament assisted us in asking questions to the EU Commission about how legal the terms and game license agreements were, especially being able to terminate them at any time for any reason. The Commission stated Directive 9313 EEC prohibits unfair terms causing a significant imbalance in the parties' rights and obligations to the detriment of consumers. The
Okay.
Commission also recommended consumers file complaints with businesses across member states through the European Consumer Centers Network. In 2024, we had volunteers across the majority of EU countries submitting complaints against the French company Ubisoft
I was
for
one of
disabling the game
them.
The Crew. The responses we received from the ECC network were extremely inconsistent. Some officials said there was nothing they could do. Others said the company was required to run the game indefinitely, which is unrealistic.
Leave it to the community or give it peer to peer or do something with that. Because if someone bought the game, let them have the game. You don't have to run the servers forever. You can do it like private, or maybe someone can run it peer to peer or something like that. You don't have to run it indefinitely. Of course, that will give you in practice a lot of losing money and stuff like that, a loss of money. But come on, let's be honest. You couldn't like given us an offline mode, because I know that that game doesn't need an online mode. I know it. Community. Just give it to the community. They will know what to do. If they host private servers, why not?
But the majority stated there was no clear regulation on this practice. We were independently able to get thousands of complaints submitted to consumer agencies in France and Germany, but there still has been no decision on them on the legality either. To the best of our knowledge, no one in the EU has ever been compensated for this and hundreds of other titles. In short, governments in EU countries are not sure how to handle this situation, and customers are overwhelmingly not being compensated for the loss of their purchases. It is an ideal situation for clear regulation. This is not a new practice. It started approximately 2005 and began negatively impacting customers for them around 2010 onward. However,
Ooh, the culling is there. Culling 1 and culling 2. I'm trying to see what it has.
it often affects a minority of customers whose complaints can get lost
It's
in the system.
Defiance.
It
Tom
wasn't until
Clancy.
a large case affecting millions that any attempts to get
Might
government
and
attention
Magic.
were possible, and there still is no answer. The EU Commission says this must be handled on a case-by-case basis, but this practice is extremely widespread. Future slides. We have formed an amateur study examining over 1,100 video games that require a connection to the publisher. The majority of these have been deliberately disabled by the publisher.
Wait. Full games only? What? It's like they disable everything about the game even if there's a single player and they don't need multiplayer for it? Okay.
With many of the rest still at risk of being destroyed. Under the strictest interpretation of what it means to disable a game, the study found that out of over 400 titles, publishers disable a customer's purchase 93.5% of the time when getting support. This business practice is responsible for more destruction to the medium than anything else by an enormous margin. There is also a strong correlation between this practice and the size of the publisher, as most small studios do not engage in it, as it requires far more resources, work, and liability than they can handle. So even though this impacts a minority of games, it disproportionately affects customers due to the scale of the largest offenders. From sales figures, it impacts tens of millions of customers minimum in the EU.
Yeah.
This
He's
impacts
right.
developers as well. This may seem obvious, but based on interviews and feedback, we found the majority of game developers do not support having games they've worked on destroyed. They can spend years of their lives creating them, but they are often not the ones making these business decisions.
It
and sometimes
always
even sign
come
non-disclosure agreements
or
so they
the
cannot voice their
middleman.
opinion on the matter.
It's always the
The main point I hope that
middleman.
does not get lost in this hearing is this initiative welcomes any solution that will solve the problem of video games being destroyed on this scale. We want this to be as easy and as practical as possible for all parties involved and are very open to how that is.
There it is. We are not seeking ongoing support for publishers after a game is discontinued. Just give the stuff for the community. Let them have it. Let them do wherever they want with that. Will they host private servers? Good. Will they modify the game? Okay. Also, wherever. It's their property. It's not that property. You sold them a license. You know what I mean. Let them have it. Let them do wherever they think it's right.
Achieved. We are not even asking publishers to change their business or monetization models, only that once they end support, they do so in a responsible way.
Make it an
Our only
offline
goal is to
mode
prohibit
or...
this destructive practice and thus obtain basic protections for consumers and the medium as a whole. I'd like to add a little bit on the economic aspect. Again, when planned for from the beginning, the cost can be very small. It's mostly about when it's undoing that's more of a
Okay.
cost related. Earlier the game Concord was mentioned. That's actually an excellent example because it's publicly stated that at least
370
€370 million
millions.
were spent developing that game, and
Okay.
it did not include.
I'm so glad that I got my refund back.
Most of the cost for developing games tends to come from other areas like art assets or marketing. This is just one element out of hundreds that already go into making a game. The other thing is sometimes industry costs or estimates of how much this would cost can be faulty because they're expecting the game they're asking for to have every last feature it did while it was being supported.
Okay.
And many of those can be retired and don't even make sense for a game that's no longer being supported, like administration or anti-cheat measures or account management or things like that. So that can drastically, there can be hundreds, what are known as microservices associated with these that can be disabled and the customer still has the core game.
Exactly.
So that should be taken into account.
For example, in the crew, I think you can play the game fully offline, so why not do it? Why not do it? Why did they have to shut it down? I have like a feeling, or at least I think this way. They shut down the crew because they were releasing the crew 3 and it was no longer like forced them to buy the new crew basically. That's what I think about it.
Out the potential cost. And it might have been mentioned earlier, but we also want to emphasize the companies have been paid already once for the working game, so that should be factored into the budgeting. There were some other points mentioned on the right to repair, whether we need it and how long a product should work. With right to repair, that's a little bit different issue. Well, that's certainly welcome, having the right to that. As I mentioned in my presentation, there are deliberate countermeasures to prevent repair. That it's almost a small miracle when it does happen from extremely experienced software professionals for resurrecting a game. However, if there were repair instructions,
because like if you bought the license, I know it's a license. It's not really buying the game as a full. That's something that I hate nowadays. You bought the license, but like if you bought the license, aren't you in the right to modify that product or to repair that product or something like that?
That would be very welcome. I think we would even consider that a viable alternative to what we're asking if it was practical to resurrect the game that way. And for how long it should work, it's kind of again, the customer standard is indefinitely, as long as they keep the game in good working order on their end. And we're not trying to hold any publishers responsible for updates that break things that wasn't their doing. So how long they choose to support it, we're completely open to. I mean, I think there's already existing EU regulations on that, but I mean, as far as we're concerned, they could end support the next day, but as long as the game isn't destroyed, we would find that acceptable. And the last point.
I also want to point out something. I'm going to give you an example of one game. It's going to be shown on screen right now. That game, it shut down the servers because they wanted to move to the second game, which is not doing very well, but we don't talk about that. They made a post on Steam about peer-to-peer connection, and that was the right solution for that game. I don't know. They just thought like this was a good idea and they just did it. And well, it definitely was a good idea. Now I can just download that game. It's free to play and I can play it with peer-to-peer connection to my friends. That's incredible. Why can't that be the norm?
On the, for doing this through the existing, just doing this through the courts, through the legal action, that still doesn't get to the heart of the matter of the game itself being destroyed. We're not really refunds and compensation. Those are a secondary measure that when the game itself can't be reinstated, we just want the game preserved. So doing it through the existing framework doesn't quite get us there necessarily.
Very good. I think he did a really good job. I'm proud of him. Yeah. If buying isn't owning, piracy isn't stealing. That's a phrase that I always say. Remember when games had an offline LAN feature? We need games to have that again. That's also something that I said, like peer-to-peer connection. Why not? Yeah, disabling game/console you fully paid for shouldn't even be a concept. That's why I also use emulators. and why I still use them. You want me to show you something? I'm going to show you something. One sec. You see this? See this right here? This is the Bloodborne. Why do I have the Bloodborne right here? Because I don't have a PS4, but I do have the disc. So why not emulate the game? That's a little bit my point, but I usually use emulator on older games because, well, game preservation. I want to play them. Why can't I have them? I gotta respect this man. He did what he thought it was right, and he just did it. He stepped up. You, my man, congratulations. Let me just. Very good. I'm proud of it. Well, that was Typhon. I'm going to leave you this website, and I'm going to leave you also his YouTube if you want to follow it, and this video. I think he did a great job. Well, one step to the right direction. This was a very good news. Him getting in the parliament was a very good news. This is me. I'm signing off. Subscribe, give me a like. I will see you next time. Bye bye.